Gonna do a countdown.
Hey now.
Hello everyone. This is my first attempt at a podcast. This is unscripted. I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm joined by Walter Roberts,
Hello.
actor, teacher, musician, and he's Tokyo based. Hello, Walter. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. It's good to see you, Justin. It's been over a year. Just been hunkering down in the pandemic zone, and just feeling pretty good. But I'm really wanting the vaccine to roll out so we can get back to normalcy.
Yeah, it's been weird, hasn't it? But
You know,
it's also been quite creative. There's a lot of interesting things that have come out, especially sort of online theatre and performance.
true.
It's been really interesting, and a lot of it for free, which is
Yes.
good, and sort of bad as well because the performers maybe are struggling for income.
Oh
But
man, no kidding.
yeah.
I show a performance by the National Theatre of London of the Frankenstein with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
yeah, that's right.
it's free and it's online, and the students love it. It's a great example to do, for a lot of things that an actual live production, which surprisingly a lot of my acting students have never seen a live production. So it's always surprising to me. But that's one source. The National Theater has done some great shows, and you can get them online. I get them through Temple University. Being a teacher there, I get a free link. But
Yeah,
that actual Frankenstein production is on YouTube, so you can watch that.
yeah, I saw that. In fact, I did an essay on it for my online degree.
Oh, then you're really familiar with it, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really interesting production. Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it
I mean,
looks,
visually, that opening sequence was just fantastic, where he just sort of crawls out of that womb, and
yeah,
then you have the train that
that's
comes
great.
out.
And the lighting,
Yeah,
it just flashes. That's kind of a thing that you really wish you were in the audience for that one, because I'm sure that's it's so
yeah,
powerful and effective. But they do a great job online. Good camera work, and they get close.
yeah. Well, that's one of the good things. It sort of brings a new audience to theatre. So maybe when we
Yeah.
sort of come out of this lockdown, it might help theatre in the long term. You might sort of introduce a new audience and that kind of thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The price is right. Free.
yeah, um, yeah. So Walter, tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay.
Where were you brought up?
Okay. I was born in Nebraska, which is the very center of America. Farmland. It's very rural. My mother's father was a rancher. He had his farm, and he raised cattle and corn. And his parents, my great grandparents, immigrated from Germany. So there's an area in Chicago which is highly German, and that's where my mother is. Where I was born. My mother's full German by her, her bloodline, which makes me 50% German. But I'm, raised in America, grew up in Nebraska, and then other Midwestern states, Iowa, South Dakota, and then I I went to school, university in St. Louis for 2 years at an acting conservatory, and then after the second year, I moved to Chicago and finished up my acting training at the Goodman School of Drama, which is affiliated with DePaul University there. And then from there, I spent, I guess, 11 years in Chicago. prior to coming to Japan with a symphony orchestra. We were touring. I got into an orchestra. Came here on a short Asian tour, and then I was extremely curious about Japan. A friend of mine had at that time, this is back 1991, had already come to Japan because at that time there was so much opportunity to get teaching English. You could just jump off the boat and immediately get a job. So I explored around. I got an open ticket. I didn't return with the symphony, and stayed for 8 months and enjoyed it immensely. And then I went back to Chicago, and after one full year, I returned and have been here ever since. I go visit home every year. I haven't been able to get home though for the last year and a half because of COVID. I'm really missing out on that. I just love going home and visiting my mother and my family. So hopefully we'll get this vaccination and everything will be back to normal. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm a Midwestern boy, and then now Japan is my second adopted home, and I've lived longer in Japan than I have anywhere else. I think half my life I've been here. I've been here for 30 years, so it's an amazing thing. I never had anticipated that ever, but a lot of people I know, the same thing has happened to them. They come over with like a 9-month, 6-month plan, and they stay for years, so
Yeah.
it's a wonderful place. Beautiful place. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a very comfortable place to live. I mean, it's the same for me because I imagined I was only going to be here for 2 years,
Yeah.
and I've been here 8 years now.
You're a
the same-
newbie. 8 years going on. Who knows how many? Yeah.
Japan is a bit like that, sort of an in-between place, and it's very comfortable to live, very safe.
Yeah.
There's lots of opportunity, especially if you're a foreigner. Yeah. So that's amazing. So you trained as an actor, but then you ended up being in an orchestra. How did that come about?
Well, both of my parents are musicians and were teachers. My mother was a piano teacher. She taught she just retired recently and taught piano for, God, I can't even guess how many, more than 50 years, maybe 60 years. I can't even. And my father was a music teacher also, and he was an instructor in the school system. He was like he did the band and the chorus, and so I had music in my family all my life, and it was great to have them around to help me. I started taking cello lessons at public school when I was 10 years old, and at that time in Nebraska they had a wonderful program that if you wanted to, you could get free lessons at school, and they give you a cello to play. That's not happening anymore, unfortunately. Those programs are very much more rare these days, and the school system that I was in when I was 10 no longer has a music department like that. Some places have it, but unfortunately, as you know, that when there are cuts, the first thing to ever go are the arts programs. So that's that. But I was lucky enough to have that availability, and my parents, like I said, were so helpful. When I got frustrated, they'd help me with things like, reading music, rhythmic things, and music was just a part of our family my whole life. So it was just kind of, I just thought every family had music in their homes, and pianos and singing, and I learned later they don't. So they were great to help me, and I've been a cellist since I was 10. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful thing for me. I've met so many people through music here and gotten work as a musician here. But when I got up to high school, I was playing a lot and playing in different orchestras for the city orchestra there and youth symphony. And when I graduated, I had to make a decision of what direction I wanted to go. And in high school, I had an incredibly dedicated and wonderful, inspiring acting teacher, and I got interested in the plays. The first play at school I was in the orchestra pit doing the musical. I think it was The Music Man, And I'm sitting down there in the orchestra pit playing and looking up on the stages. And yeah, I could do that. I could, I could sing and run around and dance. And then I auditioned the next year and just got the bite, the theater bug bit me. And I just got into every single play. And as I mentioned, this teacher was so inspiring to me and many of the other students at school. And when I graduated, I had to make a decision: what do I want to study, theater or music? And I chose theater, but have always continued to play music. And while in Chicago, after graduating from the University DePaul Goodman School of Drama, I got into this orchestra. I met someone who invited me to come and play. It was a sort of a young orchestra called the Classical Symphony Orchestra. And we toured, as I mentioned, we toured Japan, and then the rest is sort of history of what I've already said. We came in that opportunity opened up my experience in Japan, and it has been a wonderful 30 years so far. Not all wonderful, but it was a great opportunity. I'm so glad to have come here, and I mean, I don't want to sort of get off on tangents, but the more I'm here, as you mentioned, you said that Japan is kind of like an in-between thing. For years, I thought it was an in-between, but now it's no longer in between. I think I'm definitely here to stay. I'm married. I have a wonderful wife, and the more I see what's going on in the world, particularly in America and in the government, I'm really happy to be here right now. It's been a horrible 4 years, that we've just recovered and hopefully can recover from. The political. I don't get into politics, but
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there's we've had this this crisis with the pandemic, and also all the protests, Black Lives Matter, which has been really fascinating and interesting. So it seems like it's almost these things have kind of blown up at the same time, and you could argue that maybe both situations are sort of have been created by us. The pandemic maybe from the exploiting animals and
yes, possibly. Wherever that virus came from, and it jumped from an animal. I mean, that's the theory. Yeah, where Wuhan market. That's just, it's really unsanitary and selling it. But it got real political. It is pretty much a trifecta. You've got the pandemic, and then you've got the protests and the insurrection and the divisive government we have. It's very interesting times we live in. But as I say, I'm glad I'm here in Japan, where things seem a little bit less, divisive here.
Yeah. Well, it certainly gives you a different perspective on things. I certainly think about it slightly differently, especially when you're away from it. You also teach at Temple University in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start there?
I started that in 2007. I was introduced to Temple through a friend of mine who was a director, and I was in some of his plays here. Robert Sonos was his name, and he had a company called Sometimes Y Theater, and we did a lot of shows, a lot of satisfying productions with Robert. He was a very good director, and he's moved on now back to his home country of Canada. But he was teaching sort of an extracurricular class to students, and he put on sort of streamlined productions. And he asked me if, when he was leaving Japan, if I wanted to take that over. And then that sort of became an actual class. Before it was just extracurricular. And then it became, when I got in there, an actual class. I met the head of the department, and we talked about it. And he is a theater enthusiast. He teaches film and script writing, and he went to UCLA and studied, part of his studies were in theater. So he's very good, a good guy to have as the head of the department. And then the class emerged from that small extracurricular thing. Although they had a class prior to that years back, and then they discontinued the theater class. But now, thank God, they have it now, and it's been 14 years been there.
Right. Wow. Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And you also co-founded a theatre company called Black Stripe
The
Theatre.
same year, exactly, 2007, with two other members. We were in a play that was put on by a sort of an amateur community theater group in Tokyo called the Tokyo International Players. And I was involved with them the very start of even coming to Japan, and did some productions there. And then we did a production of Death of a Salesman, and the director and myself and one of the other actors decided, why don't we do our own thing out of just, wanted to do something a little more. Well, of course, Death of a Salesman is a great script, but a lot of those scripts at TIP, Tokyo International Players, I think they're lighter material. We wanted to do something a little more gritty. So we chose to go out on our own and do just one-off production, and we did Pinter's Dumbwaiter, and it was just well received, and it was a great experience, and we just continued then. We didn't actually have that in mind when we did it to actually form a theater company, but the experience was so rewarding that we just continued. And I don't know how many productions we've done now, Justin, and you've been involved in that company now, but I think we've done, 20 productions.
Oh.
Can't remember. Unfortunately, the pandemic has shut down all theater work things here, including Tokyo International Players, who have been around for over 100 years. So we want this pandemic to end so we can get back on stage and, get back to work.
Yeah. Well, I joined up with you guys. I think I was involved in a play called Dealer's Choice.
Yes.
And we had some lovely scenes together.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Snickers bar.
Yes. Sliced. And if I could get my lines right, I think I had a few times when I some horror stories of the theater, getting the names of characters wrong. And
I kind of enjoyed it when we improvised a little bit too, though. It was that was a really fun production. And then I had adapted this play called Christmas Carol, and had asked you and Chris if you'd be interested in maybe touring it around schools and universities, and then we did it, and then we've done 3 or 4 plays since then. So it's been fun.
Christmas Carol, Hound of the Baskervilles, and the Scottish Tragedy by William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Is that everything we've done? Yeah, I think it is. Hey?
I think so. Yeah. And it's just unfortunate with the COVID, we haven't been able to. We had to sort of cancel a few shows, and we haven't been able to do it for a year or so. So it'd be nice if we can get back together. And
I agree. And Chris Parham, who was one of the founding members of Black Stripe, also wrote a year ago a treatment for an original script on the Olympics, and was excited, and then suddenly that was canceled because the Olympics were canceled.
Yeah.
So who knows if that play will get off the ground? I don't know. I think he's got high hopes for it, but I highly doubt that the Olympics will take place this summer again. I think it's too early.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because I'd like to sort of make these podcasts sort of educational as well for a younger audience. Maybe people are starting out in the industry, and I'm going to try and cover things like science and personal experience as well. So I've got some quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
Number 1, hidden talent.
Hidden talent. Sometimes I feel like I might be have some psychic ability.
Right.
Because I think everybody has their intuition. I guess I should say more intuitive. And in the past years, I feel that this intuitive ability maybe is something that I might have. I guess to elaborate, maybe just I have on my mind someone, or and then they contact me, and we've been thinking of each other. So that kind of intuitive, I think I might have that, and I think that's something everyone can develop. If you just
That's
work
really
on it.
interesting because I was just watching some videos of a professor called Charles Tate, and he
Yeah.
did experiments on ESP back in the 60s and 70s. And I recommend that you watch his videos. They're really interesting.
Send me the link if you remember.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Uh,
fascinated with that. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, when I was growing up, I had similar experiences, especially with dreams. But as
Oh
I've
yeah.
got older, I'm a little bit, because I'm also interested in science, so I always try to find sort of a logical reason for something. But I certainly had some interesting experiences when I was younger. Um, well, that's interesting because the second question I was going to ask you, have you had a weird or strange experience?
Um, okay, let me think. I'm trying to think about anything that was weird okay. Now this is again getting into some sort of esoteric realm of of reality. But when I was much younger, I think I must have been in my early 20s, and I was living with a girlfriend at the time, and I was very fascinated at that time with out of body experience, OOBE as they're called. And I read a lot of books and was fascinated and just really desperately wanted to be able to do that at will, to just be able to leave your body and float around or whatever. And there are a lot of books written about it, and it's not scientifically proven or anything, but that's another area of my interest, or certainly was when I was in my 20s. Anyway, I've been reading the books, and I was living in the apartment with this girl, and I was asleep, taking a nap, and then I felt that it was working. I was leaving my my astral body was freed, and I was aware of it. And I was roaming around the apartment, and it was a totally different um, reality. The reality of things were totally changed, and I went into the room. She was taking a bath, and I was talking to her in my astral body, and that was pretty illuminating because she was really mean to me in that conversation. And she's, what are you doing? Why don't you just leave me alone? Can't you just leave me alone? I remember that vividly. And then not long after that, we ended very badly, the relationship. But anyway, that's a whole different story. But
Right.
and I guess you could say that, maybe I was dreaming, but it felt like I wasn't. But that was a strange experience for me, and fascinating one. And as you talk about your dream experiences, that's one way that the books say that if you want to discover the ability of being able to do astral projection, out of the body experience, you try to, in your dream life, become conscious of your dreaming and then control the dream. That's the first step in learning how to do it, is that you become very much aware of that you are dreaming and you control the dream. But that's could talk about hours about that. It's
Yeah, no,
fascinating.
I've certainly had a couple of experiences like that. I I there was a substance that I took that I kind of had a anyway. That's a
We
had a
all.
very similar experience to that. But there is I don't know if you've heard of DMT, and we have this chemical in our bodies, DMT. Plants, everything has it,
Yeah.
but you can actually take it, and a lot of people go down to maybe South America or something, and you can drink it or smoke it, and you will have very similar experiences like that. So it increases the DMT in your body and your brain. And some people do argue that when you sleep, your DMT increases. This chemical is released, so that's why sometimes you have
Okay.
weird
Okay.
experiences. There might be some connection. I don't know.
there's a scientific explanation maybe for that, what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about DMT. If you remember, also send me that link.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Rogan on his podcast talks about DMT a lot. He
Okay.
he's had a few experiences with it. Okay, number 3, your biggest regret or failure?
Boy, I guess there's a lot of those. Biggest failure or regret. I just, I know that there are times when I was mean to people, cruel, and I wish I could go back in time and change that. I mean, when I was in grade school, I think about this quite a lot. There was this girl who was really plain, and she had a strange religious upbringing. It was real puritanic. I can't remember what her religion was, but she had to wear these very plain clothes, and she had a younger sister. They had to wear these clothes, and she was very much singled out by the school because she was different, and she had to follow these rules. And she was a sweet little, shy little girl, and I was nice to her because nobody else was nice to her. They'd make fun of her, and she sat at my desk, some group, and she returned my friendship, and we became sort of, on friendly terms. And then it got out that Walter likes that girl, so that sort of became people were started to joke around about that, and that kind of bothered me. I didn't like that, and I sort of bent to peer pressure. And then one day I was really mean to this girl, and it was because I couldn't handle the fact that they're all saying that I'm boyfriend and girlfriend with this, and I just was so mean to her. I just really wish I didn't do that. And I still remember that, how crushed she was on her face, and the cruelty of children, and how we bend to peer pressure. I just wish I'd not done that. There are other things that I've done that that things of different natures, like maybe times when I wish I would have made a different decision about career choices, or I have a lot of them, but that one sticks out.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I think as you get older, you realize time is kind of a commodity. And
Oh yeah.
I think when I was younger, I wasted a lot of time on things that weren't important, I wasn't interested in, or people that were just had a bad influence. But I suffered. I mean, I had a pretty, I would say, dark childhood, and as a result, I suffered from a lot of social anxiety. And so one of my regrets was not just I wish I just had more confidence in myself. And sometimes it was the same. I didn't always treat people so well, because when you're insecure and you're not aware of it, it sort of projects in strange ways. So sometimes I'd lose my temper with people, or I'd get angry, or
Yeah.
so there's sort of some of my biggest regrets, really.
But I agree that as time goes by, you do sort of change your perspective.
Yeah, because you realize that there's the track is becoming shorter.
Yeah.
So you become more aware of that, and so I think you learn more empathy, and also where to spend your time,
and how to approach projects and things like that.
yeah.
Because there's probably, I mean, the older I get, the more I see that there's the opportunities are less than they have been. So when you get involved in something, you want to do the very, very best you can, and maybe even more than when we were younger. It's just an odd.
Yeah. And also I think being a father changes you as well.
I'm sure that has really changed your perspective with Cordelia. How is Cordelia?
She's so well. Yeah, she's brilliant.
Good. she talking and walking?
No, she's very she's getting good at English now. She's able to maybe sometimes put 2 or 3 words together. So that's very
good. Good. She'll be a very good influence on you then.
I hope so.
just kidding.
Number 4, heroes.
Yes.
Heroes.
Heroes. I've always, I guess, when I was a young actor, straight out of school, I really admired Marlon Brando and his acting ability and his moments that I was able to see in film, and always wanted to emulate his kind of work. But he's untouchable. Recently, I watched a YouTube video of Leonard Bernstein, and I'm just so amazed by his brilliance, his creative musical brilliance, and any great musician like that. Leonard Bernstein, his writing, and Billie Holiday is my favorite singer, and her whole tortured life. She's always been a hero of mine. I have a lot of them, I could, for other different reasons. I'm trying to think of another hero, but those particularly stand out immediately when when you ask that question.
Yeah, brilliant. What's the one thing that you knew when you were younger? What's the one thing that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Wished I knew that you have to see when opportunities are in front of you, and take the opportunities. You see the opportunities for what they actually are, and then go for the opportunity. I think now a lot of times that I missed opportunities because I wasn't looking or seeing them for what they were, and maybe other reasons, my own personal insecurities maybe prevented me from seizing the day. And so I wish that I'd had that sort of perspective when I was younger, and I think it might have changed the way that certain things happened in my life, and the trajectory of my life would have changed. I wish I'd have been able to see the opportunity more clearly of what it was. I think about that a lot now because I'm much older, I'm sure, but your life is what it is. You go in whatever direction that you're taken, but you should seize the opportunities that are in front of you and not ignore them or block them for whatever silly reasons.
Okay. Well, brilliant. That's a very positive message to end on.
Good.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Walter. We'll talk after. And thank you. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And I will end the broadcast.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Now, thank you.
All right.